Officer Subia Bwalia says the commission is dismayed by the statement issued by Tonse Alliance spokesperson Sean Tembo, claiming that the returning officer was forced to accept the nomination of NCP. Ms. Walia says the returning officer, after due consideration, accepted the nomination papers from NCP for fair scrutiny. In a statement ECZ she said the conduct of Tonse Alliance members is a breach of the electoral process. Ms. Walia says allegations that the commission intends to nullify the nomination for the NCP candidate are false, unwarranted, and meant to mislead and misinform the general public. That's a statement which was issued by ECZ Corporate Affairs Officer Madam Subia Bwalia. Now, in case you missed out some of the events which took place or characterized in Kawamba districts, let's have this video just to update your memories. We'll be back.
No, let's avoid that. Let's avoid that. The documents are in order. Let this process pass. No one else will fight in if we don't.
And colleagues, I'm going to remind you, as counsel for New Congress Party, I'm telling you, you guys are civil servants. Let's operate on the premise, of the law. This is a democratic process. I can assure you that whoever is going to mess up today, you shall be held liable on your own, in your own capacity, as a citizen, as well as the AG. But I can assure you that we shall share your pension. So this nonsense should stop. We're a democratic state. Let's follow democratic processes. You want the dead person to come from the
don't go and consult because you clearly know your law. Sit there and get the process right.
The proxies for electoral commission, you are entitled. You are the ones who are supposed to run this election. Who do you want to consult, sir? The law mandates you.
You've been mandated. You should even know the power that you want.
And morally, we need to do the right thing. There's nothing wrong with doing the right thing. No one can stop you. In fact, Electoral Commission of Zambia is a constitutional body.
In fact, no one will find in if we don't.
President Hakainde can stop you from doing your job. He is supposed to be ratified by Electoral Commission of Zambia. No one should stop you. Do your job. The law gives you the power.
And you will not
I can assure you, you shall not consult anyone. Yes. You are protected by the law. If you want, we shall represent you in your matter when you are fired. We are not going to allow people to start intimidating officers of the law.
Verify the documents.
This is what I'm saying. We are not going to allow people to intimidate officers of the law. These are... Come on, guys.
Let's not
allow undemocratic tendencies. This is a democracy. Everyone has to participate in this election. These documents are correct. Sir, do your job. Let's proceed.
No, they just want example. They just one example for them picker. For them picker
were allowed to file in. Huh? Why should you stop us today?
We are at the nomination center, but these people are saying that
why should you stop us today?
Leaders of New Congress Party are different from the adoption certificate. The names of the adoption certificate.
President Hakainde should know today that we are a democratic country. We shall follow the law to the land. This is not right. Even the Home Affairs Ministry, yes, no.
On the adoption certificate are not
colleagues, you are protected by law. Let's do the right thing.
This person that needs to consult shall not consult. He shall take his seat and really understand.
All right. Thank you so much. Those are some of the videos, of course, that came from Kawamba district, of course, Mapula province, where the parliamentary by-elections is yet to be held on the 20th of December 2024. Now, let's hear from the lawyer representing the NCP, New Congress Party, and of course, who is named is Mr. Celestine Mukandila. Good evening, Council, and welcome to the program.
Good evening, IP, and thank you very much for having me here.
How are you?
Well, I'm doing great.
Right.
What?
Yeah, go ahead.
We've just been hammered with a lot of load shedding and also, but I'm okay.
Right. Yeah. You are well. You can confirm that to the people of Zambia.
Well, the people of Zambia must know that I am okay, kicking strong, and not intimidated.
Yeah. When I was my team were inviting me to come for the program, And I had in my mind that I hope you not exhibit the thuggish behavior here. Why are you a thug? You've been described as a thug.
It's very unfortunate, and I've placed it on record that the Electoral Commission of Zambia will have to prove. They'll have to prove that perhaps I'm a thug, or perhaps I exhibited a thuggish behavior. And of course, that is according to me and according to my lawyers. That statement in itself, that description is very discriminatory and it's very defamatory, as a matter of fact. So we have since written to the Electoral Commission of Zambia a demand letter, and not only the Electoral Commission of Zambia, but also the individual officer who wrote that press statement in her capacity. So we've written a demand letter. We are hopeful that we'll be able to sort this thing out amicably without proceeding to court. But in an event that we fail to sort this thing out, we'll have no option but to go to court. Yeah.
So when you talk about individual officer, you're talking about Madam Sylvia, representing DCC, right?
Yes, that's right.
Tell me something. You are a learned lawyer. I mean, your standing in society is, being questioned now. What went wrong? Why did you behave in such a manner?
Well, I don't know why you're saying behave in such a manner, but of course there was a reaction.
In the manner in which the commission is unhappy with your conduct.
Yeah, so that is why I indicated that that statement is defamatory, and it ought to be proved that we behaved in a thuggish manner. And I feel and believe that, it being a statement like that, it tends to lower my reputation in the face of right-thinking members of society, and it should not be allowed. I feel and believe it was a very emotional statement that was written, and it has to be examined. It has to be examined, it has to be put to a test, and they need to prove. And the definition of a thug, for example, it tells that a person ought to be a criminal. I have never been a criminal. I have never committed any offense. I have never placed my fingerprints before the Zambia police in any way to be picked as a criminal. So the commission will have to prove that my behavior was thuggish and perhaps that a thug. However, I consider their description as something that we'll be able to sort out. I'm pretty sure.
What transpired? Tell us, you were in Kawambwa, you as a legal counsel for NCP, of course, together with some members of UKA. What really transpired? What led to that commotion? What was the problem? Well,
first things first, we, as NCP, was given a slot for filing in their nomination between 9 to 10 hours. Now, the candidate for NCP got to the nomination center at exactly 9:50. Now, 9:50, it simply means that we're left with 10 minutes for us to file in the nomination. The ECZ looked at that and said, no, you were late. Well, that was the first point where the arguments in trying to understand each other with ECZ officials came about. Where our candidate was almost blocked. And that's what interpretation of time will have meant.
Provided you are within the...
Provided you are within within the time frame. So we succeeded in convincing our colleagues. They allowed us to proceed with lodging of the nomination. So as our colleagues from the Electoral Commission of Zambia were looking at the documents, therein came yet another clock, where after verifying all other documents, the gentleman from the Electoral Commission of Zambia, being the returning officer, indicated now that no, I think I have got a problem with your adoption certificate, because the individual that has signed the government functions as president of New Congress Party. Besides, barely a year ago, or is it some months ago, in Impika, there was a by-election, a ward by-election. The New Congress Party participated in the by-election, and the certificates were signed by the same individual. So for me, I picked it that there is a huge possibility that our candidate may be defranchised. It looked like a serious breach in the constitutional rights of our clients, and I picked it. I discerned it. Immediately, I told the colleagues to say, gentlemen, we need to do the right thing. Before you know it, the returning officer decided to tell us that, okay, fine, let me consult. Well, for me, I think that was a problem. The Constitution of the Republic of Zambia has indicated that elections shall be conducted by a returning officer. Now, this is a constitutional office holder who is supposed to conduct an election. The question is, who did you want to consult? I told the colleagues that this is what causes problems. You cannot decide to go and consult over a job that you are mandated to do. Your job as a returning officer is to conduct these elections. And you shall conduct these elections according to the provisions of the law. You are not going to consult anyone, Bwana. Because we know the moment you're going to go and say you are consulting, it means it is clear political interference, and it is clear interference with your operations. If you thought, or you know to say, you intend to consult, it means, or if you know it is whatsoever, and that is the provision of the Constitution. So we told our colleagues to say, you shall not consult anyone. There is nothing wrong with a returning officer deciding on their own on whether to accept or reject the nomination papers. And that is what the Constitution says under Article 52. A returning officer shall reject the nomination papers immediately. Are given to them, or perhaps if they decide, which we knew. So that list did not have President Peter Chanda indicated as president. It was just a list which we don't know the source, and it is very questionable. We had to ensure that we take a picture of that list so that we keep it to know exactly what is happening, to get to the bottom of that. But we told the colleagues to say, gentlemen, we have precedents. You cannot say the law according to ECZ is applied differently in Mpika for a by-election as well as what is happening in Kawambwa. If you accepted our nomination in Mpika, you may as well accept our nomination in Kawambwa. If anyone is going to be aggrieved by the fact that we're filing in or we filed in a nomination, let them go to court. There's nothing wrong with that. We are more than ready to challenge or attend court and deal with these issues. So ideally that was what transpired, and I thank God our colleagues came to their senses. The returning officer said, okay fine, I shall make my own independent decision. He looked at the documents, scrutinized the documents, and felt within himself to say the documents were correct, everything there was correct, and it was in accordance with the provisions of the electoral code, and he decided to accept the nomination papers and gave us an instruction that tomorrow, being the following day, we will have to go back there and make a campaign program or calendar. Yes.
Right. Tell me something as a lawyer. Let me take advantage of your presence as a legal counsel. You've spent much time talking about the office bearers of this political party and that political party vis-a-vis a person who is supposed to, approve the candidature of anyone who's aspiring. What does the law say when it comes to, office bearers being the ones, endorsing or authenticating the candidature of an aspiring candidate? What does the law say in that regard?
Well, remember...
and what is the role of, for example, election chairpersons in these political parties? How does it work? Because I remember some years back, it was all about maybe somebody who's maybe just an election chairperson will be the one, appending the signatures. It has nothing to do, or it had nothing to do with the office bearers.
Yeah, so remember, and all this is actually very politically motivated, and that is why, for me, my major concern has been that can we allow independent parastatals to run independently without any interference from the politicians or the executive arm of government. So remember, just recently, the Electoral Commission of Zambia decided to come up with a rule. Remember, they are mandated to come up with this rule. Come up with a rule that adoption certificates shall have to be signed by the Secretary General and or the President of the political party. Now, this in itself entails that the moment there's an adoption certificate, the Electoral Commission of Zambia needs to have an updated list of office bearers from the registrar of societies, so that they do not make a mistake, so that they admit a candidate upon verifying that the adoption certificate is signed by a person who's appearing on that list as president and or secretary general. You see? So that in itself, well, we have accepted that this rule has been brought to the table as a matter of fact, albeit the fact that this is a rule which has come about as a result of the Electoral Commission of Zambia, as well as the state, this regime, trying to block the Patriotic Front, because they know and understand the Patriotic Front from participating or fielding in candidates for any constituency. And it's become very apparent that that was the intention of the state. That was the intention of the Electoral Commission of Zambia. And that is why, for me, I believe the Electoral Commission of Zambia, and that is why, for me, I believe the Electoral Commission of Zambia, in its current form and state, has become so compromised. Its integrity has now been lowered in the face or in the eyes of reasonable men and women in society, because it is clear if the Electoral Commission of Zambia can come up with a rule or a law to specifically indicate that it is only a Secretary General of a party or a president of the party that shall sign on the adoption certificate, then therein lies a problem. Therein lies a problem. It simply means that it is a targeted move. But all in all, when you look at the Kawamba scenario, for example, and I've placed an indictment on the police. This is an indictment on the police. The police will need to come in and investigate this. The police will not need to wait for a complaint to be lodged before the police for them to know that there was a document that purported to have come from the registrar of societies, which document did not have Peter Chanda as president of the New Congress Party. And therein also is a document in the possession of New Congress Party, which document came from, according to us, if they can authenticate it, well and good, but it was a fake document because it did not represent the current status of office bearers for the New Congress Party. So as a result of their document being produced, as a result of that document, the consequence was that the New Congress Party and ourselves, we had to indulge in that dispute resolution process, where we had to resolve that process, that dispute with regards to these issues. So it's extremely important that we start testing the integrity of these commissions. We should test the integrity of the police at this stage. So I think as it stands, it's extremely important to understand those office bearers' details are the details that are appearing at the registrar of societies.
You've insinuated that this rule or clause in the electoral reforms to have a party president, the SG, or perhaps office bearers being the ones, approving the candidature of their members. You've alleged that this came as a result of the Patriot Front and the state colluding or allegedly colluding with ECZ, ensuring that the PF doesn't go anywhere. Now, tell me something as a legal counsel. In an event, for example, there is an election, and this political party is curious to participate in these elections. And then in an event, God forbid, but let's say a political party president of this organization maybe dies along the way, or maybe a few days before the nominations, he or she dies, whilst the SG of the party is out of the country or elsewhere. How can this be done? Because all you are telling me and what the commission is demanding is a party president and the SG of the party. How can this be done?
It's a very interesting dilemma, which I think would be handled as and when we're faced with the situation. But my opinion would be that, you see, a political party is a private club, which club is managed by members of that club, and they decide what ought to be done. So if the political party will sit and come up with from out of this world, and that is what the illogical concept that the ECZ may have brought in Kawambwa, where they brought a list of office bearers, wherein the leader who was indicated on that document was the late Cosmas. How then do you want the late person, a dead person, to come and sign those changes before the registrar of societies to ensure that those changes are effected? Now, what if it so happens that before you can lodge those changes, within the window period, a person dies and you are still, or resigns, but you still have your resolution? And what do? You need to accept what the political party comes with. Yeah, so I think that is my opinion.
There is another concern. The citizen was, given a 71 days to the commission, and targeting the commissioner, Mr. Chipenzi, as well as the chairperson, Madam Zalomes, to resign from those positions. According to that statement, he's alleging that the two individuals are highly compromised. The two individuals are highly partisan. Why should these debates, be heightened at this particular time?
Well, of course, my take is that currently the Electoral Commission of Zambia has sent a perception that it is highly compromised. It has lost the integrity that we want to see it having in this democratic dispensation. Remember, Zambia is a democratic state. And the bedrock of any democracy will have entailed that you're going to have an electoral body or a body that manages elections conducting itself in a very independent manner and in a very transparent manner. What we have been seeing is where, to begin with, the Electoral Commission of Zambia commissioners being the chairperson is a non-UPND cadre, a person who contested to be MP in UPND for adoption. The other issue is
that commission. There are so many commissioners there.
Zalomes, Madam Zalomes, is a non-UPND cadre. The second one is my brother, who equally contested for parliamentary seat or for adoption in UPND again, in the name of what's his name even. This gentleman who's later is been put on the later. But anyway, so these are non-UPND cadres. So that in itself sends a certain sense of compromise. It sends a certain sense of non-independence. And considering the fact that we've been seeing maneuvers, or is it, they call it Mingalato, we've been seeing Mingalato being done even by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Imagine if we did not know the fact that Peter Chanda appears on that list of office bearers. The ECZ would have ridden on that fake document and they would have barred our candidate from contesting in that election. And the question is, why was that criminal activity allowed? Why was that permitted?
They did aspire, to become either members of
It's
parliament
an issue
or
of
they were politicians, but now they are civil servants.
There's nothing wrong with that, but it's an issue of integrity. There is so much influence that we have seen being exerted on this commission. The influence is showing that the independence of the commission is somewhat compromised. You cannot have, for example, a rule which clearly shows undemocratic tendencies to say only Secretary General and President should sign that. Political parties make their own rules. What if the president is not around, the secretary general is not around? They decide within themselves to say this one is acting, they're going to sign. But the ECZ has made it a rule that as long as you are not president or secretary general, we shall not accept adoption certificate. Deal with such issues such as elections and constitutionalism, I would tell them to say this provision is unconstitutional, it is equally undemocratic, it is extremely important for you guys to revisit this provision.
How is the playing ground where elections are concerned in Kawamba so far, at least from the time you are leaving the area, and vis-a-vis the fight, the spirited fight you put up for your candidate?
Well, the reality is that the playground is extremely healthy for the Tonse Alliance candidate. That is the new Congress Party candidate. It's extremely healthy. The chances are that I will actually say by 10 hours you will have won those elections. But of course, we have seen the maneuvers that are being done and conducted, which clearly shows, and that is why I'm saying our colleagues at the Electoral Commission of Zambia must search their souls. They must do a self-introspection and realize to say they are officers of the court, they are law, they should be law-abiding citizens, they are conducting a constitutional mandate, which constitutional mandate makes them very independent. They should not conduct themselves in the manner they are conducting themselves. Barely 2 days ago, we saw Electoral Commission of Zambia meeting up with chiefs. I mean, where on earth have we ever heard that the Electoral Commission of Zambia is meeting up chiefs during a run to a by-election? Where on earth have we ever heard that the Electoral Commission of Zambia is meeting up youths in a constituency? So these are maneuvers that are not making sense. It's being done in
the spirit of inclusivity, and those stakeholders.
You see, there is nothing wrong with having such stakeholders, but it is extremely important also that once they do that, they need to engage all the stakeholders. If you're going to meet any other person, call or extend the invitation to the political parties participating in that by-election. That is what transparency is about. Transparency and accountability. These are the bedrocks of managing an organization as an independent body. You know. So, for me, I believe right now the ECZ is almost becoming a de facto campaign manager for the UPND, which should not be the case. So we need to ensure that we re-examine whatever is happening. We need to ensure that we apply the law as it ought to be applied. Our colleagues need to realize that they are independent in their operation. They are not subject to the control or direction of anyone in the process of conducting an election.
How do you look at the independence or the autonomy of the three arms of government? Of course, you've talked about the Electoral Commission of Zambia. I will take you to the legislature as well, which is Parliament, where we've, there's been a lot of questions, concerns around the debates being conducted in Parliament vis-a-vis, stones being thrown at the presiding officers. When you analyze all these, the three arms of government as a legal council, how would you analyze their judicial or their parliamentary independence?
It would have been extremely good for us to have a government that has got three arms of government that are independent of each other. Unfortunately, the independence of the three arms of government appears to be eroded. They appear to be eroded because the National Assembly appears not to really be in sync with wanting to provide due checks and balances towards the executive arm of government. the judiciary is equally being intimidated day in, day out by the executive arm, which intimidation has come as one that we really need to get worried about, because now we have seen that judges are being removed. The independence of the judiciary, and this is what it means to have a democracy. The bedrock of a healthy democracy will have been told that, and just the concept of constitutionalism will have been told that we have these three arms of government that are able to check each other, checks and balances, especially on the ruling elite, which is the executive. So for me, I would say it's a sorry sight right now. It's a sorry sight because our democracy keeps on shrinking, our democratic space keeps on shrinking, and it is not supposed to be the case. We now have an executive that comes out as the might, as the alpha and the omega, who in turn even want to come out as though they can abrogate the law without any recourse. Imagine the many constitutional abrogations that we have seen. I am on record coming to this same station talking about this major abrogation of the Constitution of Article 210, where a major state asset such as Mopani's shareholding was let go of without following constitutional procedures and processes, without subjecting that transaction before the National Assembly. And we've seen ministers giving statements that are out of this world. Today I was actually mocking this president to say, upon bragging that you will have quality ministers or the quality appointments, look at the mediocrity that we've been subjected to. Imagine a minister who does not even understand what it means to allot shares, who does not understand what it means to transfer shares, coming into the National Assembly and lying on the floor of the House to say, there's not been a sale, there's not been a transfer. What we did is a subscription. Bwana, if you don't understand something, don't say it. It's as simple as that. I will tell you today that if this constitutional abrogation is not handled, it's going to be a problem, it's a challenge.
You call it a mediocrity?
It's pure mediocrity of the highest level, of the highest standard. We need to look at these issues with lenses, legal lenses, for example. If this minister knew, the best thing he would have done is to let the Minister of Justice perhaps give that statement. You cannot claim that the shares in Mopani did not belong to the Zambian people if 99% of, in fact 100% of the shares in Mopani belonged to ZCCM-IH. ZCCM-IH is the Zambian people's government, company. ZCCM-IH is a Zambian people's company, and by virtue whereof decisions to allot shares have to go through a shareholder approval by ZCCM-IH. The document was there, the documents are there that are showing the condition precedent for that particular transaction to have occurred. And among the condition precedents included that we needed a shareholder approval from ZCCM-IH. Who is ZCCM-IH? It's the Zambian people. Now, if the Zambian people were not consulted in the allocation of those shares, or in the subscription of those shares, or in the increase of the share capital of Mopani, then what have you done? What have you? That is an illegality. I am on record in April. I was here at this station in April of this year. I talked about this illegality. I said it's an illegality and it has to be treated with the hands of illegality that it has. It's a dirty transaction. So I think it's very wrong. It's very wrong that our minister would be on top of the mountain, even screaming out loud to say there was no sale, there was no transfer, there was no whatever. This,
why is this matter, keeps on coming?
I told you I would not rest. I told you I would not rest until constitutional provisions are respected by this government. I have made it a point that, you see, I am sworn in to protect and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia. My duty to protect the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia is inherent. Unlike the duty that you may have as provided for under Article 5, where all citizens are supposed to protect and defend the Constitution. Mine is inherent because I had to swear an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. I've made it a point that we shall use all legal means to ensure that this government follows the law to the letter, especially provisions of the Constitution. I take it with keen interest that provisions of the Constitution have to be respected. The President of the Republic of Zambia today, Dr. Hakainde,
of Zambia who are watching the program to just watch this video of the Minister of Mines and Mineral Development, Honorable Paul Kabwe, who was actually instructed by the Speaker of the National Assembly to issue a ministerial statement and have this matter be settled once and for all. And accordingly, the minister went to Parliament and issued this statement, which of course was followed by some questions coming from members of Parliament. Let's watch the video, and later on I'll have a legal understanding from Council Mukandila.
The Honorable Member for Nalolo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As long as ZCCMIH has shares in Mopani, GRZ has shares in Mopani, and the people of Zambia. So, Madam Speaker, when the minister says Mopani was bankrupt, it had shares which had a share value. So the bankruptcy in technical terms can be described in monetary form, but the shares had value. So when shares are allotted, you issue new shares, which is maybe called a share in issue. Now, the issuing of those new shares, the share in issue, is technically a transfer of those shares at a consideration. That is why the payment was made. Now, the share structure of Mopani has changed from 100%. It's now 49, 51. So, looking at this, that there's been an allotment. When shares are allotted, it is new shares that are created. Now, those new shares that are created are transferred for a consideration. Now, Article 210 of the Constitution is clear that that must be subject to parliamentary approval. So, can the minister clarify? Does this allotment he's referring to mean that the new shares had no share value? I would like to submit this.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Madam Speaker, just the last part. I missed the last part.
Honorable Member, for Nalolo, you can repeat the last part of your question?
Madam Speaker, in simple terms, is the minister confirming to this House that the new shares that were allotted, the share in issue, new shares, leaving those other shares, that have been transferred for a consideration, which is a payment, technically a transfer, and the Constitution says if there's a disposal or transfer, it must come. So is he submitting to this House that those shares had no share value?
The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much, Honorable Member. I just gave the value
of the shares that were allotted. As a
why wasn't this brought to Parliament?
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Madam Speaker, I have made clarity why there was no Article 210 invoked during this transaction. I made it very, very clear. I think the honorable member, you can even have access to the statement. I made a very clear statement as to why. I think everybody was listening. As to why the shares, we did not invoke Article 210. Maybe I read through again, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Maybe you can read through again, Honorable Minister.
Madam Speaker, on the issue why Parliament was not, I'll read very slowly, why Parliament was not part of this transaction. The Attorney General guided that the transaction did not require to be brought before this August House. The Attorney General's guidance was that the Mopani transaction did not need to be brought before Parliament because of the following. Number one, there was no sale, transfer, or disposal of a major asset. B, as defined by the Constitution, a major state asset includes a parastatal and equity held by the government. In this case, Mopani is not a parastatal. Before and after the transaction, it's not a parastatal. Further, government did not hold any equity, I repeat, in Mopani. As such, government was not capable of selling
All right,
shares.
thank you so much. That's the Minister of Minerals and Mines there, Honorable Poka, also clarifying or solidifying its earlier position that the shares were not sold in as far as Mopani is concerned. I have in the studio Mr. Celestine Mukandila, Lusaka-based lawyer, as well as a member of the Party Front. When you listen to the Minister Council, you realize that his argument is basically on account that this, this sounds like it's a legal battle. You are a lawyer, you are given different perception or different opinion. There's also the Attorney General who is also arguing as well, who argued from inception that there was no sale whatsoever where the sales are, the shares are concerned, or there was no transfer. Whom should we listen to now?
Well, I think clearly the Zambian people have seen for themselves the quality of minister that we have. It appears there's a deficiency in the understanding of the law that the minister has. The minister was reading a statement which he himself, I don't think he even understands. It's clear. However, there is an issue to do with government having an interest in an asset, an interest or equity being shares. Now, you see, as of last year, in fact, as of some few days ago, Mopani was literally owned by ZCCM IH. 100% shareholding belonged to ZCCM IH. And this doesn't require rocket science. ZCCM IH shareholding is as follows: 60.2 deal is going to
what
literally be
what gives
reversed.
you the confidence that this government is going in 2026 council?
The government of the UPND has literally not taken care of the Zambian people. The government of the UPND has not fulfilled its promises. They lied to the Zambian people. They lied themselves into office. And the truth of the matter is, the Zambian people are tired. The cost of living is so high that we cannot comprehend. It's increased by over 110%. This is not right. It shows that this leadership does not know what they are doing. Now, further to this, historically, and this is what this UPND government does not understand. I will tell you that historically, there is no Zambian president that has been voted in by the Zambian people. But I will tell you that all Zambian presidents that have been voted out have actually been voted out as an intention to vote out. Those that have been voted in were voted in as a consequence of voting out a leader. Kaunda was actually voted out. In 2011, MMD was actually voted out. In 2021, PF was actually voted out. President Hakainde, and I repeat, President Hakainde was never a favorite. He was never a popular person. He was a president of convenience. The Zambian people just settled on him. He was never a popular president. He was a president of convenience because the Zambian people were voting out PF. And this is what he's missing. In 2026, right now where we are, the Zambian people are resolved as to who they shall vote out. And I can assure you, my brother, I have moved in the streets of Matero. The people of Matero have told me, whoever I've been talking to, they've told me to say, whoever aende. We are just waiting. We are tino lama voters cards yet. The people of Zambia are resolved. If people in Matero can decide, and I can assure you that it is the people of Zambia that are resolved to voting out this person.
What about the notion, the perception that, is being built or coming from the government officials, sympathizers, that UPND seems to be very strong on the ground?
I've heard this story before. I've heard this story before, and if they are going to continue,
also the president has made it clear that they are going
like I'm telling you, I've heard this story before, and if President Hakainde and his colleagues are going to continue living within a bubble of their own imagination, where we are all aware that I'm buying fuel at a very expensive price, 35 kwacha, is it 34 kwacha? You are buying millimil at a very expensive price, 270, 300, 350 in some areas. The cost of living is too high. We can't manage. On top of that, there's a rhetoric increment of 500 kwacha given to civil servants. Bwana, salaries are not increasing. The Zambian people are suffering. And you are going out there mocking the come on, that is a joke. You are going out there mocking the Zambian people that you are doing well, we are developing this country. Developing hunger? Well, if that is development, then we'll see who is going to vote for hunger. If the Zambian people shall decide to vote for hunger, an example will be in Kawambo. If the Zambian people will decide to vote for hunger, then I think it means we are a cursed nation. It means we are a cursed nation. The Zambian people have always decided to vote against hunger. They've always decided to vote against bad leadership. They've always decided to vote against a leadership that has become arrogant. Right now, I can assure you, what we are seeing is arrogance of power in this government, where the government decides to intimidate every voice of reason. They arrest people without even subjecting them before court on time. Today, innocent, you are a victim of the fourth estate being arrested for doing nothing, not committing a crime, for wanting to work and fetch information that you will go and relay to the Zambian people. You are a victim. That is what this government has done. You are not the only one. There are other journalists that have been victimized in this government. Now, are you telling me that as a reasonable person, you'd go and vote, you even go and tantama to vote for this government? No reasonable person would do that. So President Hakainde and his colleagues should know that when he goes on the ground, the Zambian people are suffering. That money that they are getting to give these people, when they've got a program, they go and distribute monies in the streets and all, so they come and chant. I can assure you, the Zambian people will get that money and chew it. The same way that the Zambian people in Kawamba will get the money. When you bring that money, we know some minister, I call him driver, some driver minister, who goes to buy elections with a bag of money to go and distribute. But I can assure you right now, don't ever reloaded. Promax, you bring that money, the Zambian people will eat the money because that is their money. We have seen the amount of scandals in all the ministries. We've seen the amount of corruption. This is the most corrupt government. Today, as we are talking, my brother, the European Union, the USA, the American people have withdrawn their support to the fight against corruption with the Anti-Corruption Commission because of the amount of corruption in this government. This is the most corrupt government. Can we justify it? Yes, if the American people can withdraw their support for the fight against corruption, citing transparency, lack of transparency, lack of accountability, lack of independence in the institution fighting corruption, then we can justify it. The Zambian people have seen. They have withdrawn. Why? Today, look at the headline today in today's paper, where the Minister of Health was, is it the Minister of Health? He was even saying, my ministry is not the only one that is marred with scandals. There are other ministries. That shows how corrupt these individuals are. It's a clique of corrupt individuals, which we need to ensure that come 2026 we get rid of. The Zambian people's monies are being abused. They are being abused. The Zambian people's monies are being stolen in broad daylight. Today, $6.5 million in a contract. An individual deciding to award himself that. What kind of daylight robbery is that? Colleagues, we need to get back to the drawing board and safeguard the Zambian people's money. What we are seeing is bad. By now, we would have seen the Anti-Corruption Commission moving in. But why are they not moving in? Because the Anti-Corruption Commission sits at State House. They dictate who to be prosecuted and who not to be prosecuted.
And let me get
it is a compromised institution right now. Dr. Kava is on record indicating to say the Anti-Corruption Commission in its current form and state is incapable of fighting corruption.
Let me also get your bite in regards to the absence of the board at ACC. You know, it's been over 3 months now from the time the board was dissolved by President Hakainde. What does it mean in the fight against corruption?
It means there is total non-independence. Remember, this is an institution that sits in the office of the president as the ACC. So where there is no board, what does it mean? There is total control. Directions have to come from State House itself. So if there is no board and we are seeing this rampant corruption, I don't know where the corruption is stemming from, if not from the big house. Because that's the body that has to manage the corruption fight. So if the American people feel that there's no transparency in the fight against corruption, if they feel that there's no independence, in short, they are telling the Zambian people and the president to say, Bwana, you are not fighting corruption. Your fight against corruption is a fallacy.
I want to open up cause council, but of course, before as well, waiting for the viewers to begin to call us via the number on the screens, let me also take advantage to just bring to your attention that the arguments coming from the government and President Hakainde is that they found a country which was divided, a country which was in tatters, and therefore it would take a long period of time, it would take a methodical approach to reorganize ourselves. How much, appreciations do you give to President Hakainde and the UPND government for putting the country in order where peace and unity is concerned? Let's talk about unity.
Well, currently the country is divided, as a matter of fact. The country is divided, and these are issues we need to be speaking to. We need to really unite the country. And the process of uniting the country will come or will start once we have that dialogue. The dialogue that we've been seeking for has to happen in the spirit of uniting the country. Imagine today this government has even decided to create so much division that even the church is divided. They are fighting. How do you literally fight the church in open, in broad daylight? It's extremely unfortunate. So there is need for a correct leadership and for a serious mindset change in the leadership of this country. The leadership has to correct its mind and ensure that we start uniting the country in real terms.
All right, let's pick up a few calls. Caller, good evening. Welcome to the program. Hello, caller, good evening, and welcome to the program. Hello, caller, are you there? All right, please call me back. The number is right on your screens. You can call me back. The number is right on the screens. Within a minute, give your submission, introduce yourself, as well as reduce the volume on the TV screens to avoid any possible feedback during the conversation or your submission in the studio. I have Lusaka lawyer and also is a PF member, Mr. Celestine Mukandila. Caller, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening.
Good evening. Tell us your name, please, and where you're calling us from.
My name is James. I'm calling you from Kirundo.
Thank you so much, Mr. James. Go ahead.
Yeah, my contribution or my concern is good evening, the other gentleman.
Good evening, Brother James. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you, sir. Yeah, let me speak Zambian.
Yes, please.
Because we are all Zambian, isn't it?
Go ahead.
No
please.
problem, sir.
Feel comfortable.
Yeah, in the first place, you are a PF, isn't it? So, PF, what was happening during your time of blue? Where Makatas and my ministers, then I'm going to visit at the drama, Wasikopa, Mumotoka, Bafanga Papeti, Munyumba, Bamenya Machani. You know, Prime TV was closed by the PF because of supporting opposition. But you know what, the way we are criticizing the government of today, for me, I can say PF should be the least person, the least opposition to criticize this government, because the reason why we were voted out of government is because of the way we took this country. There was too much lawlessness in this country. People were being killed during by-elections. People during, if you see the by-elections that were happening in Murovezi. Yeah, is it Murovezi? Yes, Murovezi. There were live gunshots from the state police following the opposition. So much of it is
just hold on, caller. Oh, just hold on. Who was killed in Mlobezi, and in which did we record that death, if you can remember?
Say again?
Who was killed in Mlobezi during the by-election? Which by-election, in which year?
The by-election that involved that retired in government, that has not been paid for the past maybe 10 years. Others have died, others have not yet been paid. They were just paid recently. And the people were playing with money. Civil servants were not being increased the salaries, but people were playing with money. You know, every by-election during the PF, there was loyalty, people were being butchered, people were being hammered by bangers. This time around, why should you even? How many media houses were closed during PF? A lot. We are watching.
Right, you may conclude.
Let us criticize. You need to give guidance. Actually, maybe if it was a different opposition now talking to say the government of HH has failed, we can understand. Not the previous government that we even removed from the government because of the way it took this country.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
We are watching.
Thank you very much, Kola.
And we were not even happy the way you have been. The issue of hunger that we are talking about, it was as a result of the rainfall.
May you conclude?
Farmers that you are saying the government of HH sold the maize. Farmers, the FRI bought maize on credit from the farmers and farmers were not paid.
Thank you so much, Kola. Thank you.
Maize to pay the farmers and you are now complaining.
All right, thank you very much, Kola.
Farmers were paid.
All right, please, when you call me, let's just summarize your submission, and also let's ensure that we are factual. If you want to bring in certain information which may be strange, please justify, because I'm here as the moderator to moderate you out there and my guests in the studio. So I'll always come in to gather facts, not rumors. Kola, good evening and welcome to the program. Hello, Kola, good evening.
Good evening, IP, and good evening, lawyer.
Good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead, tell us your name, please.
This is Mr. Banda from Chasefo.
Go ahead, Mr. Banda from Chasefo.
IP, I've always said that what you analyze or what you say to us, some of us will feel good because you are the eye opener. Yes, you have talked last time, maybe people do not understand. You always say when UPND was in opposition, you used to support them and condemn what bad things maybe PF used to do. But UPND has continued doing the same again. It's not that all that PF was doing was bad. No. We talk of infrastructure. PF did a good job. And us here in Chasef, we praise PF because we have a new district that was created by PF. We were able to share the national cake with the rest of Zambia. So I feel, though they may say you are PF, no, some of us do not agree with those who are condemning you. You are the eye opener. Please don't be threatened by these others. The opposition is us. Some of us are not even in any of these parties, but we are hunger that is inflicting us now is more than what was there in the PF. Thank you so much. Please go ahead. But the lawyer again, you lawyers, Uka, you couldn't even defend Uka, say, why should Uka not be registered? When you lawyers are there, you can't defend us, sure. Thank you so much. I continue with the good work. Me, I cherish your work. Don't be threatened by any of these that are the political maybe, I don't know what to call them. They are power hungry. But the opposition is us, those that are not belong to any of these parties.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you, Mr. Banda. Thank you. All right, permit me, Council, to pick up at least two calls and then allow you to react. Then we pick the last set of calls. Caller, good evening and welcome to the program. Hello, caller, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening. This is Mr. Mbulo.
Mr. Mbulo, where are you calling us from, as you also reduce the volume on the TV set?
Let me switch off the TV.
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much for accommodating me.
Yes, please go ahead, Mr. Mbulo. Where are you calling us from?
Chirundu District, Southern Province.
Beautiful. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for accommodating me. This lawyer is a very good lawyer, but what we are finding difficulty is understanding where he's standing from. you know, this country is because of these lawyers. We don't know where you're going. So let the lawyers now start helping us citizens, because all the lawyers in Zambia have turned to be politicians, and it's not helping the country. Let the lawyers be lawyers, politicians be politicians. My other thing is the lawyer, they are shouting too much, and where are we going to learn if lawyers are in Auckland shouting at people, fighting with people? So our advice is let the lawyers be lawyers and help this country so that we enjoy as Zambians. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Council, you may react, then we pick up another set, of course.
Well, I thank you very much for the contributions, and it's clear at the end of the day that the Zambian people are all experiencing what we are all experiencing. There's hunger, there are violations of the law, human rights abuses on the rise, there's massive and rampant corruption, which we all need to start talking to. And of course, despite individuals deciding to try and discredit our affiliation, they still recognize the fact that they would have held a different opinion had it been different people relaying the information that we're relaying, which is the reality. And this is what President Hakainde and his colleagues should know, that that is what the Zambian people are feeling. There is hunger, which is too much. And that hunger is turning into anger. Yeah.
All right, let me pick up my last set of calls. Caller, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening.
Good evening, tell us your name please and where you're calling us from.
I researched around. So that really didn't give a fair playing ground. And today I know that the ruling party will tell you the same. So I'm also worried about the one as well. People have lost interest in by-elections because they think it's not that important. So I don't know how this can be turned around, but I would encourage the opposition to be united. And then one issue for the lawyer. For a long time, we have been governed by laws that are kept, that are from our colonial leaders. Where is the problem from both the ruling and the opposition to say, let's sit down, guys, this is not fair? Because I know even the PF, they messed up when they were in power. They are now in the opposition. They are not talking about the bad moves that are there. So then as we're going towards 2026, I don't think we have a lot of changes that will really satisfy the Zambian voters, because there's a lot of bad laws that govern our electoral system. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Mr. Maziopa. Let me pick up two more calls and then we wind up the program. You can call me, the number is right on your screens. Caller, good evening and welcome to the program. Hello, caller, good evening.
Good evening, thank you, Bye. How are you?
I'm alright. Tell us your name, please, and where you're calling us from.
Thank you, Mr. Mukandila.
Mr. Mpandia. Where are you calling us from today?
I was very happy with the fight that you guys did put up in Kawambwa. I'm calling from Kawambwa.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
I was very happy with the fight that you did put up in Kawambwa. That was unnecessary, and the citizens should be allowed to do that when the country is doomed. We need people like you that can stand strong and defend our democracy. What we are experiencing now is where they want to use all tactics to bar people from contesting in elections so that we have one candidate that can put through it. That's not democracy. Please, do not be discouraged. I know you are going to face a lot of challenges. Everything, they will throw everything at you. But this is another democracy that you are fighting. You are not fighting for just yourselves. You are fighting for all of us because we can't stand here. We don't have the opportunity. But with your knowledge, your expertise, and your political experiences and everything.
Comments on what has come through from our viewers. Caller, good evening. Welcome to the program.
Good evening, my good evening, my lawyer.
Good evening, madam. How are you?
I'm okay. This is Alice from Mandev.
Please go ahead, Alice from Mandev. Please feel comfortable.
Lawyer, mulife bwino.
Enta mkwai washani.
Tefe bwino awe twatotera mwanjini mulelande tofine. Tapale ko bale ba UPND. Aba ma supporters abale supporter ma press singers. Tabale mona tabale background epalile yashi bantu muma churches tabali ule supporter ine pano ndio indi full member in a church kumwanzi tabali kom church mcongregation mwezi usupporter kuba youth bonke banote against so apana mapamaliro pane babali chiriro opo abantu bakukire bonse pachipanda nabakuko ukwisa mkuru obwali wapamaliro mlandu wansala era betse balanda tiba UPND bakapita unless impofu nempofu national school alisarapuka unless ichipowe cha kwatamano etikesa bote ba UPND mu 2026 fwewa di background ni fwewo ero ama enemies ba UPND is the Zambian people. Bela bepa na bantu atu wa opposition, what and what. My enemies are UPND, ni fwewe fwe ma Zambian people. Fwewa ne munobu chush, fwewa ne jula. Abantu kulaliro wadi pamaliro, is it normal? Kwembo kulaliro wadi pamaliro abantu. Na abakuke chipanda jonse, na fuma pamaliro. I'm from the Pino House. Once abantu chipanda mlandu wansala abantu bale mkuru ya pamaliro atu wa UPND. Ba presinga bela bepa abantu wale ande fishinka inendenda sana na mwe lead up church ni maenda maningi ma churches yote sana. People they are complaining. If my churches they can complain. What more abantu fi aba chipepa no kupepa ba church baleza bale bepa pya ba UPND baiteke no kuiteta 2026 tuleba funya hapo whether they like it or not baleya.
Thank you so much, Alice. We appreciate you as well and your contribution. All right, let me just read a few texts, cancel, and then from there we call it a night. I know my phone doesn't stop ringing, but I will try by all means to. All right, this one saying, good evening. It's clear that the UPND has failed. Has failed. The opposition is not strong enough to remove the current regime. If parties like SP and CP can come together and form a strong alliance, we would be better positioning to unite and seat the UPND. PF has nothing to offer. That's Ben Shumba. Thank you so much, Ben Shumba. We appreciate you. I don't know what you mean by SP and CP. I don't know a political party named by CP. Maybe you have to clarify on that regards. All right. Otherwise, your message, your point has been taken. The problem of SEC and other institutions who have acting DG, they can't make decisions. The ones who make decisions are the appointing authorities. We need to have a full-time director generals in key institutions. That's Kuvaku Sola. Thank you so much, Kuvaku Sola. We appreciate you. maybe you were young. He only gave 4% of for which. Thank you so much. IP, you are closing. I don't know what you mean there again. The law is law. Article 210 is very much clear. Something is wrong for sure. Thank you so much. There's no name there, but your message has been taken there. All right, Council, allow me to give you 2 minutes to conclude.
Well, of course, the Zambian people have spoken. We have seen the failures. The 11 MMD was voted out. In 2021, PF was voted out of convenience. The only other president that had been voted in by the Zambian people, by the way, in 20. Being 06, I think, is it 6? As long as they are still drawing government salaries and government fuel to put in their vehicles, they will not know that things are extremely bad, because them, they use government vehicles, they abuse government resources. Our money is being abused. But that is why I have indicated, and it's good that our colleague in Kawambwa, who even was part of the people that jubilated on the fact that we fielded in our candidate, has spoken. So that is why I've indicated to say, when these people come with that money, get the money. It is your money. It is your money. Get the money, but you will know where to place your vote. Don't kubeva. Get that money, and they will come with that money. Our colleagues in Kawambwa, thank you for watching, and I want to address you that these colleagues will come with the money.